It is a brand new episode of Flyers Daily. How about the 9th of September, 2024? Flyers Daily, as always, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. I missed it last week, but last week was the 36th anniversary of my favorite album of all time. Matter of fact, our guest from PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyBuzz.com got a little sampling of it when he checked into our stream to record this episode. And of course, that is Injustice from All from Metallica. Can you believe the album's 36 years old, Bill?
And that's nuts. You know,
that smacked me in the head like a brick. I was like, 36. It came out in '88.
That's wild. You know, I had that semi recently with Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, because that was '87.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You know,
where did the time go?
Exactly. That's wild.
It's unbelievable. So we're going to work every album title or every song title from that album into this podcast in one way, shape, or form, most likely through our Ask Billy questions. We'll manage to get them all in, I do believe, but we shall see. Bill, obviously, we're at the week now where the skates are going to get back on the ice in an official capacity, where rookie camp is going to open up in a couple of days. We've got 2 games coming up in less than a calendar week now. 4 days from now on Friday night, you and I will both be in Lehigh watching the Flyers rookies take on the Rangers, and then back there again on Saturday to do it one more time. We're at this point now. It's really kind of the calm. Not even really that calm anymore. Right before the storm, we are in anticipatory fashion right now, waiting to see how this is all going to play out with, many storylines to follow.
Yeah, we've finally reached that end of off-season time where every single day there's bigger and bigger group skating, closer and closer to the group that's going to be on the ice when NHL camp starts. Of course, we have the rookie camp to look forward to, the 2 rookie games. And I'll tell you that sometimes the summer feels short because of when the Stanley Cup Finals ended. But this offseason itself has felt endless. So
yeah, it really has felt, and maybe that's because it ended so suddenly on April 16th. In that second period against the Caps in Game 82, it was all of a sudden, that they still have a chance to make the playoffs. They'll see if they can eke out this win, get the help they need, kind of mitigate the losing 9 of their last 11 and stumbling down the stretch, to getting an email late in the third period saying exit day is tomorrow. Come to the skate zone at 8 a.m.
Yeah, it was as abrupt as it gets. Even in the moment where, you'll probably never again have a circumstance where tied game, playoff spot on the line, 1-1 game, and a tie does you no good. So you have to pull your goalie in a 1-1 game in the third period. So you really kind of lose on an empty net goal, and then you find out that, well, it didn't matter anyway because just a few seconds ago. And I don't know. I never would experience that again. That's for sure. But it was so abrupt. The players were still largely in a state of shock.
They really felt like it on exit day. Like that was the thing. You're going 100 miles an hour. You're preparing as if you're going to open a series in a couple of days, and then boom, everybody slams on the brakes, and it's pack up your crap. It's time to go to the off season, where there's so many questions for every player and around every team in an off season when you don't make the playoffs. So I think it really stunned a lot of guys from going go since this time last year to all of a sudden put the brakes on. You got all the free time in the world over the next couple of months. Yeah. Well, hopefully they're not in that situation this year. It was 87 points last year, Bill. We'll see if they can go north of that this year. I wanted to take some Ask Billy questions in this episode. I thought it was a good opportunity for people to kind of weigh in. As we get into camp, there's going to be a lot of different storylines. We'll have a lot of different conversations about what's happening in camp, reacting to preseason games and usage and who's playing with who, and looking at all those storylines, talking to a lot of players, coaches, and execs, those kind of things. So let's get to some Ask Billy questions. And I want to start with this one because it's obviously very timely. We saw the reports that came out the other day, I believe from Anthony DeMarco, about Kolosov now skating with the Dynamo Minsk team, and apparently still doesn't want to come over, or reports are that he's trying to stay there for another year. And Kelly tweets in, Kelly Blaze 7 says, if Kolosov refuses to come over, what do you expect the Flyers to do? Burning 2 years of his 3-year ELC in the KHL is bad business. Can they restructure the ELC, loan him to Minsk this year and bring him over next year, or will they use him as a trade piece? And Bill, this is a really interesting question because, you don't want to put yourself in a situation with a declining asset again, like you had with Cutter Gauthier. I don't know that you can't just tear up the existing contract, and I don't think you can toll it unless he refuses to come over.
Yeah.
But what do you do from an organizational standpoint here? I think first and foremost, if he doesn't come over, I don't have any trust in the player again, because the original agreement upon signing that contract was to come over, and he did come over last year. But once you break the trust, I can't ever regain that in this situation.
Yeah, it's been a pretty aggravating process, especially because he had the ability to come over earlier. His season was over, and he kind of dragged his feet in coming over in the first place. So as much as we've talked about homesickness and whatever, he may not want to come in the first place. He kind of had his mind made up a little bit. I don't know how you deal with that. You can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to hate it.
Yep.
And lo and behold, you don't like it. I don't think there's enough trade value there. It's not like he's
not Askarov.
No, exactly. He's not Askarov. He's not so advanced that anybody's going to be knocking on your door that he's so much better than any prospect that they have. No one is banging down the Flyers' door to get him right now. There is no NHL job waiting for him, guaranteed for him out of camp. Wherever he plays, he's probably going to need time in the American League. So that's not just a Flyer saying that's just where his development is right now. And that doesn't mean he couldn't be a quick study. Doesn't mean that he couldn't end up earning a spot. It just means that he has nothing guaranteed for him coming in.
And nobody's going to guarantee it.
Yeah, nobody.
Not in Lehigh Valley, not in the Flyers, not in Coachella, not in Seattle. I mean, nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. If he doesn't come, he is in breach of contract. He has to report. Now, there can be an extenuating circumstance where he asks for an extension to come over, some kind of visa issue or whatever. But that doesn't appear to be the case here. So you do have the ability to toll the contract for a year. That hammer is in the Flyers' hands. Really, Kolosov has no leverage other than to say, well, I'm going to sit out a year. And that isn't really many leverage. The KHL season has already started. Not that he wouldn't have a job in the KHL. He's good enough to do that. But, the regular season is already underway there. So the longer he sits, to me, the less leverage he has. Because
and the year doesn't go away. Yeah. They still have the 2 years of the contract remaining.
Exactly. So if he doesn't report, and right now there's not an indication that he's coming over. I mean, rookie camp starts within the next week, so it doesn't look like he's coming for the start of camp. We'll see if it becomes a game of chicken here. But I mean, from the Flyers' standpoint, they are going to proceed as if he's not coming, and if he does come, so much the better. So it's a chance for a guy like Makiniemi to come in and impress. He's still only 25, has a couple games in the NHL. Would he impress? Well, I don't know, but he'll have an opportunity to. It's a chance for Carson Bjarnason to not to challenge for an NHL job this year, but you have a situation where if Kolosov is in here and Zavragin is still developing in Russia, that spotlight's all on him. And you give a chance that he can state his case for the World Juniors, show how far he's come in the last year. So when you don't show, it creates opportunities for other people.
Especially at that position, right?
Exactly. And nothing changes faster sometimes than goaltending. So I don't see where he's doing himself any favors here. But then again, I'm not his agent. So
yeah. I just hate how this plays. This is not an apples to apples comparison to the Cutter Gauthier situation because of the prospect that Cutter was compared to the prospect that Kolosov is. And look, there's a lot of projection when it comes to goaltending, and I think Kolosov, even though he is undersized, could be a guy that does make it in the NHL and is great with movement and all of that stuff. There's still a long way to go, but to me, this is one of those distractions and noise that you got to find a resolution too quick, because you don't want this eating up any bandwidth within the organization, because to me it's unnecessary, and it's a guy going back on his word, and I don't forgive that very easily. No. Tyler tweets into Ask Billy and says, Tyler Barton, he says, will Michkov play both games, Friday and Saturday, in the Rookie Showcase this coming weekend? I have tickets for Saturday's game. When will they release lineups? Are Lichenko, Bonk, Barkey, Fedotov all playing? And this is something I kind of went back and forth with a commenter on the YouTube channel, Bill, about last week, because I said, you and I talked about it. My gut is that he won't play either game up there. Maybe he'll play one. And the guy said, well, you're not, the almighty dollar determines that. He's Gate. He could play there 10 nights in a row like Springsteen at Madison Square Garden, and it would sell out, or Billy Joel. Different. First of all, the Phantoms in the PPL Center are owned by a different group than the Flyers. They're not owned and operated. So that is, and look, the Flyers are trying to get that Gate at home if that was the concern, and I don't know that they're selling out the PPL Center for a rookie game anyway. Yeah. Michkov or no Michkov. What do you think happens this weekend? Do you think he plays one of these two games? I have a feeling now that maybe he gets one.
Yeah, I could see him playing a game, one of the two games. So many times it seems that somebody goes in one of these rookie games. It's an exhibition game, and how many times does somebody end up getting hurt?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of rookies out there and a lot of adrenaline.
And guys who are really anxious to make a name for themselves. All the scouts are in the building.
Mm-hmm.
That's Flyers have experienced that themselves with players that they're really high on or counting on over the next year, and he gets hurt in one of these rookie games. So I think that it remains to be seen. It's a question to ask as you get deep in the week. I would not be totally shocked if he got into a game, but on the flip side, there's other guys you want to look at. You're not really evaluating Michkov in rookie camp. You're really evaluating him in NHL camp anyway. How many NHL preseason games does he get into? That really matters more. Now, from an entertainment and a storyline perspective, that would be fantastic. But I think there's bigger priorities in mind. So if he doesn't play, don't be too disappointed or too shocked.
Yeah, this could lead you to the frayed ends of sanity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like trying to predict this kind of situation with Michkov. I want to see him, and as quickly as possible. I'm doing both of the games. I'd love to see him play in those games. I'd love to be, calling his first pseudo NHL games. But I just don't know that we're going to see that. We'll see how it plays out. Tyler Wright also asked, when will they release the lineups? I imagine we won't get the lineup for Friday until Friday. Yeah. I mean, they only open rookie camp, on Thursday, basically. Yeah. And we'll get Saturdays on Saturday. I think a couple of guys will play in both. And maybe one of those guys is a guy he asked about, Lichenko. I think maybe Jet Lichenko could play both.
Yeah, I think Lichenko could play both games. To me, the intrigue in this rookie camp and into the NHL camp, guys who aren't necessarily going to challenge for NHL jobs this year, but these are really just kind of benchmarks to see where they are over the next year. Lichenko being at the top of that list. I'd like to compare Oliver Bonk this year to a year ago. How much is he assertive? Does he take charge, etc. Is he on the first power play unit in the bumper? It's still yet to be determined. That kind of a situation is where you can take a look at him in playing that kind of a spot, and you're not really. It's not really much risk that's involved. Denver Barkey, he's not age eligible yet for the American League. We talked about Bjarnason. One of the guys who might challenge for an NHL job within the next year is Samu Tuomala.
Yeah.
That's a guy who I'd like to really see how much he's progressed. What condition he reports in those.
We're going to get a big look at him in camp and in the first preseason games as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of starts with being featured guys in the rookie game. So there's plenty to watch, whether Michkov is in it or not.
Yeah, he mentioned Fedotov as well. I don't believe Fedotov played either of those games. He's ticketed to be one of the NHL goaltenders. They're not. I don't think they're going to play him in that situation. I think you'll see Bjarnason, maybe Noah Meyer. I think you'll see Mäkiniemi as well. But I don't think you're not going to see Fedotov, even though he's technically not even a rookie at this point, right?
Correct. Yeah, he's already 27 years old, about to turn 28, so he doesn't qualify as an NHL rookie.
So this is not a situation where you have like what's his name, the movie The Rookie. I can't remember the actor's name who played the pitcher.
The kid?
No, the one where the old guy he was a coach and then he was throwing and then the radar got on the side of the road and he ended up making his major league debut at like 32.
Okay.
So okay. I don't think it's a situation like that, but we shall see. So that's our thoughts kind of on that. Lutsenko's one of those storylines that we're really going to be looking at, Bill. Do you just get the sense because of the maturity of his game, the way he's looked kind of in some of the showcases that he's been in since the Flyers draft, and we've had a little bit more focus on him, that he's got a really mature game. He may be one of those guys that gets to the show a little quicker than most other people.
Yeah, I would say he has a chance a year from now.
I agree. And then you're going to make a decision on a Noah Cates in a Scott Lawton type situation.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And, there's room for growth. Like to see him shoot the puck more, have more opportunities to score. We already know he's a really good playmaker. We already know he's a 200-foot player and plays a pretty mature game. I'd like to see him score, too. But he can certainly set up plays. He'll play both ends of special teams probably when he turns pro. But certainly in these two rookie games, you'll see a lot of him in different spots, within the two games. So that's a guy I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, every time I see clips of him and watch him, I'm just so impressed with the burst, the skating. Yeah. It's just, this is not like you watch his skating and you go, oh, he's good skater, but he's skating against, same age, not best on best or not with NHL players, not an eye of the beholder situation.
Yeah.
He just can flat out skate. You're going to see it at every level as he levels up. He's always going to be one of the better skaters on the ice, no matter what.
Oh, without a doubt. That's one thing that jumped out even in development camp when you've been off in the summertime and no one's going to be at their peak yet. He can fly. He definitely has an extra gear to him, and he gets to top speed quickly. Some guys have speed for show. He's a guy who had speed for game kind of situations. There's so much potential there. And he's so young. He only just turned 18. I think it was August 24th or so. So He's one of the younger players in his draft class. So it's I'm really looking forward to see where benchmarks for his first rookie camp, and then track him over the next year with Guelph, see how he might look a year from now, physically, in terms of his offensive confidence, in terms of shooting the puck, and see how close he is to challenging a year from now. And it all starts right now.
At PostThis99, Blockbuster Trade on Twitter tweets into Ask Billy and says, are there any openings for either Andre Yinning or Hunter McDonald? Didn't mention Ronnie Attard as well. Who's going to draw the shortest straw here, Bill? Do all these guys draw the short straw? One guy we haven't talked about, but I know inside that front office, they got a lot of love for Hunter McDonald.
Yes.
I think he'll play his first NHL game this year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be out of camp, and it likely is going to depend also on injuries and possibly somebody being moved as well.
Exactly. And it depends how Igor Zamula does in camp. It depends on the health of Rasmus Ristolainen. Players can only control what's in their hands to control. You want to see these guys mount a challenge for a spot. Remember that last year, Emil Andre opened the season in the NHL level, so he's a little bit in the weeds so far this year. And I think there's a feeling that there's more on the defensive side, development wise, to go with him after seeing him for 1 year. But a guy like Jennings, I think he's about as ready as he's going to be. So, when does he get his opportunities? And I think he'll see games in the NHL level too. But does he crack the roster to open the season? Those are all possibilities These are the roster battles that really are to be decided. And year after year in the NHL, there's fewer and fewer roster spots open. It seems like. So I think the most intrigue is in some of those younger guys who've had a couple years in the American League, and are they ready? Are they ready to take the bull by the horns? Maybe start the year in the NHL, whether they do or whether they don't. Can they hold that spot in the depth chart? And there are guys that have the capability of filling a role, but they have to show it. And there are guys that are maybe a little bit more have the inside track, like Zamula, just because he played more games in the NHL, because he's not exempt from waivers anymore.
And they've invested a lot in his development.
They've waited. They've spent a number of years for him. It's already since, I think, 2018 that he was signed to the first contract.
When he went to the bubble, I think, and practiced with the team during COVID, I said at that time, I thought that they're investing in his long-term future by doing that then.
No, without doubt, and they've shown it too. He's spent games in the NHL pretty much every year. In this past season, he had his longest stint in the NHL. Obviously, didn't go back down at all. And it's really just so many of these young players. But Zamula's a good one in terms of being like, you want to see that consistency. Because you definitely saw games where I thought Zamula absolutely looked like an NHL defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were times I thought his confidence was down a little. Some of his decision-making was a little shaky at times. It's not uncommon for young defensemen, but you want to see a progression this year to more consistency. But again, that has to start in camp, because he's not a guy like a Sanheim or a York who could have a terrible camp and he's still got a job.
Yeah.
So,
one of the guys that I wrote down when I was doing my top storylines heading into camp, Bill, was Elliot Desmoulins. I look at that year 2 years ago, his rookie year in the AHL. I think he had 23 goals.
Yeah.
And then last year, nothing worked for him. He just did not have a good year. Never got his legs under him. Never rode any kind of wave of confidence, it seemed. This camp, I think, is really important for him to find his way back into the organizational flow chart and back into the plans here. Because if he has another year like he had last year, the plan is going to be detachment at that point. Yeah,
for sure. He I thought going into camp last year, he was one of the guys with a realistic shot of seeing a fair number of games in the NHL. Maybe not out of the
gates.
A
4C.
Yeah, and that's really kind of, even though he led the Phantoms in goals as a rookie, really the sweet spot for him has always been as a bottom six.
Yep.
Guy who can play center, can play wing, brings some speed to the table, can play in different situations. That's really the player the Flyers have been trying to develop into. But there is an offensive piece of it, and just nothing clicked last year. And his confidence level really plummeted. I mean, if you look at the guys in the organization as to who prospect-wise were the biggest disappointments, I think Elliott is right there. And one of the big surprises, too, in a negative way, was there's never a question of work ethic. He has ability to make his way to find a spot, but he has to show it this year. And I think that any possible projection of him being one of those guys who moves around the lineup, because I thought that was the projection for him.
Yeah,
the guy that play up and down the lineup when he gets to the NHL. I think right now it's a more modest goal, just simply getting in the lineup, whether it's a fourth line role or maybe as a guy who can move around a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think Elliott has to show that this camp, and this is a higher stakes camp for him than most of the guys that are there for their first or even their second camp.
Yeah, I mean he's up against it now, and he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt coming off the year that he had last year. One of the commenters last week, Will, in one of the episodes, made such a great point, and this is why I love involving the audience. He said, for a bold prediction for the team, I think it was somebody that emailed, said that I think that Farabee is going to be the Sanheim of this year, a name that was out there a lot this offseason. Now, Sanheim was out there and rumored deal done. Torrey Krug shot it down and it didn't happen and he came back. And Sanheim could have gone one of two directions. He could have come in and said, "Oh, they don't want me. I got this long contract. Just get me out of here." Or I can come in, I can work my bag off and show that I earn it. Well, Joel Farabee's in this situation now a little bit to some degree. And he's been here all summer really working, and he's got a great bond with his teammates. He loves the city, loves baseball, the whole thing about it, right? He could be a guy that fits that storyline that comes in and goes, you know what? My name was out there. I don't want to leave here. I got a good group of guys, good group of teammates, good group of friends, a good situation here. Do I see eye to eye with the coach all the time? Hell no. Nobody's going to see eye to eye with Torts all the time. But I'm going to come in there this year, and I'm going to prove that I can be more consistent. And even though I had a career high in points last year, I'm going to really show that I can go to another level.
Yeah,
I could see that. I could see that playing out. I think he's got that kind of competitive juice in him.
Well, the year that he had in terms of up until the end of January, up until the All-Star break, and which is really where most of his points came from. But scoring a lot of first goals, getting to the net, just doing a lot of things well they needed him to do. So he knows what he has to do. He just has to carry it consistently through the whole year and keep getting to the scoring areas. Because even though Joel has a pretty good all-around game, the number one thing you still need from him is the offensive punch. You didn't draft him in the top 13, 14 of his draft year in the hopes of developing into a bottom six guy. And he doesn't have to be a bottom six guy. But this really is the year he has to take that next step for a whole season. If he does that, then it helps him. It helps the team. But the capability is there. We've seen it. We just have to see it over the whole season. Same thing goes for other guys too. Morgan Frost being.
Great example for both of those guys. A bit of a to live to die season for Farabee and Frost. At Orange Black 12. Oh, great Orange and Black number 12. You got to go Tim Kerr. He says, hashtag Ask Billy, who's going to be in the opening night lineup but gone by the deadline? Ristolainen, Lawton, anybody else? I think in that order is probably the two I would think of, provided Ristolainen is in the opening day lineup and he is healthy. We'll find out more about that, I guess, as we go into Campa coming up in just over a week. But I would think that those are probably the top two that fall into that category. And, obviously maybe the development of Lachenko, Ekwelf could play a part in that as well. And I don't know where Noah Cates fits in big picture here right now either, Bill, coming off his season last year. So I think he's kind of in that pickle barrel player area also as to where does he fit both now and long term?
With Noah, I personally, although I thought as a rookie he had a really good, surprisingly consistent season at center, considering he's been a winger most of his career. But I still think he's more of a natural winger than center, which he ended up moving over when the Flyers moved a piece around the lineup last year. And they had an injury in November and just missed a lot of time. And wasn't until late in the season he got things going offensively. It helps Noah that John Tortorella is a big believer in him. Yeah. Likes his all-around game, likes his work ethic, all his professionalism.
Stick, play away from the puck, all that.
Yeah, all those things help him because it buys him, I don't say more time necessarily, but it buys him a little bit more leeway. Where is his role in the lineup? Is it as a third line, top nine guy, or does he settle into a fourth line kind of a role? I mean, I think the opportunity is there to stake down a spot in the top nine to be a guy who's up and down the lineup as you need somebody. Have an injury at center, he can move back to the middle. You need those versatile players in your lineup. But I think that when you look at the expectations going into last year, just because his rookie year was so consistent, I don't think it met the expectations that he had for himself. So you want to see him kind of get back to where he was his first year. If he does that, great. And if not, he might be a guy that's a piece that you think about maybe moving on. Maybe not in season, but when you're evaluating your roster beyond next season.
Yeah, it's going to next year. I think there's a big kind of reset of the roster based on the information from the last couple of years, maybe 3 years to some extent, and then now we have the ability to dip into that free agent market. Who's going to be available? What are they going to? How do these pieces of all of these puzzles fit together? And we'll kind of see how these pieces go moving forward as well. It's going to be a really interesting week with the rookies getting in first and kind of easing our way in. And one of the days I look forward to is that first day of Torts camp and the skate. I know how painful that is for the players, but seeing guys gut it the way they did. Like, I remember last year, and I think that it's as much of a head game as it is anything else, because you have to pace yourself. If you come out of the gate too strong, you'll never get your legs back under you. I think you'll learn as you do that more years. And Cam York last year damn near died. He just probably came out of the gate a little too hard, and by the end in Torts, I think recognized it when they were stretching after his session and kind of went over and gave him a pat on the butt. And Cam gave him a look like, dude, do not come near me right now. I'm ready to kill you. And which is exactly the response Torts would want, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, hate me all you want.
I mean, you're not going to experience anything more grueling than Tortorella's combination of that skating test with the rope in the middle of the ice. So you better, no shortcuts. You got to take it all the way around. And B, last year that series of scrimmages, where one side is doing 2 a day. Oh, and by the way, the team that went twice in the last day, you're the starting lineup for the preseason opener.
Yep.
That was and of course they had nothing. They had nothing in their legs, but he knew they wouldn't. So you're not gonna have much more of a conditioning test than that, where you're doing 2 scrimmages and you're in the lineup for the first preseason game. I fully expect something like that again.
Wow. Are you surprised that James Van Riemsdyk hasn't popped into a PTO yet?
Somewhat, only because I know in talking with JVR, he really wanted to be close to home, whether that was New Jersey or whether it was Minnesota, where he and his wife and their kids make their home.
Forever home. Yep.
He was looking for opportunity and still wanted, of course, to take one more kick at the can with a cup. He stays in great shape, but I think he has to also put his family concerns in the mix there. So
it's too limiting.
Yeah, I'm sure that he would take the right PTO, but he's not going to take just any PTO. So I really hope JVR does find a deal somewhere, a 1-year deal or a PTO somewhere he wants to be. Just such a good guy, such a likable guy, and you want anybody if they're going out the league within the next year or so to be able to do it on their own terms. So I hope so.
Yeah, and the thing for him, he'll end up working in the PA or something like that. He's been a great player rep for so long with the NHL PA, and we'll see where that turns out. It just doesn't make sense here. It just doesn't. To me, I don't think you can move backwards. Like, I see some people saying, "Oh, it makes sense to go get Giroux next offseason." See, as much of a Giroux fan as I was, no. I can't go back. I have to. I'm all about one thing, and that is moving forward. Who on this roster, who in this organization is a part of that to have success moving forward? And I can't go back. I'm not trying to rekindle old things or anything like that.
No, I think that once that ship sails, you have to move on. I mean, listen, in terms of the Flyers organization, Claude Giroux will have his Flyers Hall of Fame night. He might even be one of the, and who knows, maybe he does something in his remaining years of his career to get him in the Hockey Hall of Fame, where his number would be retired. Or maybe even the Flyers might make him an exception. His legacy as a Flyer is the second leading scorer in franchise history.
900 games.
Yeah, that's long since been cemented. But I think that we're not in a place where we want to go. Where we want to move backwards here. We need to go with the group that's going to move forwards.
Yeah, I just don't think you can do it, and it just doesn't make much sense. Well, Bill, we get hockey this week, thank goodness. I got all the song titles in, but Blackened, I couldn't work in some way, shape, or form. My favorite song on the album, Harvester of Sorrow, I didn't get in. Yes. I just wasn't in that kind of move. But we are getting close to the Dyer's Eve of the season. So how's that?
There you go.
So we got most of them in.
Yes.
And
Orange and Blackened. There you go.
Yeah, perfect. See? That is justice right there. Orange and Blackened. Bill, I can't wait to see you this week because it means it's back on. We'll get after it. Yep. It's going to be a lot of fun. Coming up on Wednesday's episode, just to let everybody know, we're going to have a little sit-down with Tim Saunders and Jim Jackson together to talk about how play-by-play guys prepare for a season, how it's changed over the years, why preseason is hell on play-by-play announcers because they got to memorize roster of about 85 players, which they'll never call their name again. But we'll talk to those two coming up on Wednesday. Friday, we'll have something from rookie camp as that gets underway, and we'll be at the barn watching hockey coming up on Friday and Saturday. So everybody, thanks for listening. Read Bill's work at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyBuzz.com, and we'll talk to you next time on a brand new Flyers Daily.